Happy Monday! I am super excited. So this Monday, for Monday Motivation Healing Journey Reflections, I'm going to be having a special guest coming on. Hi, Mrs. Williams. Hey, there you are, Connie. I'm going to add you right now. So I am going to be going live with Connie Mcmillan, and we're going to be having a great conversation. But while she's joining and while we're waiting for some more people to show up, hey, Connie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Oh, I am blessed and highly favored. God is great.
Nice.
God
Yes.
is great.
Awesome.
And I thank you for allowing me to be here.
Yes, I am so excited that we connected last week because this is a really important topic and it's one that I don't really know a lot about. So I'm excited for your expertise. Yes, I am going to just invite a couple people. Do you want to tag some people and then we can start?
Sure, absolutely, absolutely.
Yes, so I'm going to do that now. Hope everyone's having a great Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh. Hey, B. Jenny. How are you?
Hello, everyone.
Yes. Let's see. Can I get? Gives me this list.
To the right people. Amen.
There we go. I'm just tagging everyone. Maybe not everyone, but I'm tagging a bunch of people. Yes. Oh. So we'll start in another like 10 seconds, so we don't keep waiting. We're here. All right. Yes. So. All right. So let me just introduce you a little bit. Hey. So that people know who you are, and then I'm going to have you add to it. So Connie is someone I have known for years, maybe 2010, 11. I don't know. I think
I don't remember
maybe it's 2011 or 12, but it's been a while. And
no, it was definitely after that because I did not get sober until 2014. So it was after that.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not been as long as I thought.
No.
Okay. I thought I met you closer to when I started my photography business. I didn't realize it was a little bit into it. But anyway, she has really evolved. She is now a Christian coach. She is an author, and she has a podcast. She's a host of a podcast called Sober Confessions of Christian Women. And I wanted to talk with you because, you know, I do a lot of talking about self-love and forgiveness, but you also do a lot of talking about sobriety, which also involves those topics, but I don't know so much about the addiction part, you know. So I was hoping you would tell the world a little bit about yourself, your journey to becoming a Christian coach who specializes in coaching women specifically, but you work with men too if they wanted.
If they want it, yeah, but I mostly work with women. That's been my clientele for the last few years. Yes. I've never worked with a man, but I'm open.
Yes. So mostly with women, to help them heal and rise and thrive around the topic of sobriety. So did you want to add to that about what you do?
Well, Yeah, so I thank you first and foremost for allowing me to be here. It is truly an honor. Yeah, that you pretty much covered it. I am a survivor of alcohol abuse, use, and dependency. I'm very careful with my words. I've always said, I told my clients this, you'll never hear me call myself an alcoholic. I believe you say what you affirm. And so that's no judgment to anyone else, but I'm very mindful of, the words that I speak so that I can become who God has already chosen me to be. So my journey started really with self-esteem, low self-esteem. That's really where the connection came in at. I struggled for many, many years of my life. I was always the darkest one in my household. And had crooked teeth, got left back in second grade. I mean, you name it. I was just all in my head, to be quite honest. And I just started to believe those things. I first tried to mask my pain with clothing. I was the fly girl in school. You couldn't tell me nothing. I had the Guess socks, the Guess jeans, everything. Every name brand you can think of, I had it.
Yeah.
And that worked. So I thought for a little bit, but then as I got older, I can remember the day I took my first drink. So this is now well out of high school, like my late 20s. I decided, to hang out with my two girlfriends who I'm still friends with today. And we went to Red Lobsters. And I don't know if any of you remember those long, skinny glasses that they used to have. They were plastic. And I was really like, oh, that glass looks really nice. I want one of those.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what was in it. Well, I had an idea. And I took a sip and it was over after that. Like I just felt like an awakening came upon me. All the low self-esteem that I had went out the window. Just all the doubt, all the fears. I felt empowered, to be quite honest. And so that's where my journey started. Not realizing that, the advertisement that says drink responsibly, there's no such thing over here, right? That didn't work for me. One wasn't enough, and two was too many. So, I lived my life I lived my life that way for a very, very long time. And when I started to heal, actually my journey started in 2014. My mom passed away. I also come from families that mask their pain with alcohol. And so, I did see it exhibited in the home, but I took my first drink outside of the home. And so my mom passes away January 16, 2014. And that was the day I decided no more for me. And it really just came because I saw my life flash before my eyes because I had been doing so much crazy things, from sleeping with men that I could not tell you their first name, to stepping outside of my marriage. I was married at one time, to just really doing risque things. And I had to say to myself, Connie, you can be the queen that continues to live this life that you've been living. And continue to carry out this negative behavior throughout the next generation. Or you can be the guinea pig that you asked God that you wanted him to help you to become, and break this curse. You have a choice. And I decided to choose the latter. So yes, that's how my journey started. I will say, though, that God is showing me so much more. I've been consecrated. I'm jumping a little bit ahead, but he's been showing me that, sobriety was an experience, and that's really not my call. But it has definitely served so many people. So, of course, I still help in that area, but I know my calling today, and that's really just impacting lives. And so, I've been able to be an author, a podcaster, to help women, empower women, and really break up that root. Because nobody drinks because it tastes good. People drink because they have something that they're masking. So that's really where I am now. I'm more in the, let's get that together, that pain. Usually it's self-esteem. 9 out of 10 times it's the self-esteem aspect. So that's really where I am today. Let's unpack that area right there. Let's find out why you view yourself the way you view yourself. And, incorporating skills and necessities to help you live your life in purpose and not in pain.
Right. I am so happy that you chose to be a guinea pig, as you called it. But it kind of feels like that when you're healing, when you're going through the process, because it's like an experiment. You're like, will this work? What's going to happen if
Yeah.
I like stop this behavior
Right.
and start something new? Like it's an
Right.
unknown, and it can be
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah.
But I mean, you did it with God. So,
Yeah.
you know, there was that support. I don't know how people do it with just on their own. That's kind of harder, I would think. I mean, it's
Well,
possible.
it's almost impossible, to be quite honest. I'm not saying people can't gain sobriety and things like that, but it's always better to be led by somebody else who's already done it, right? They can save
Yeah.
you distraction, they can save you time. And for me, to go back to your point, I was afraid of the unknown. And I also knew what the known was, right? So I knew what would happen staying here. So I was okay with gambling on the unknown. And that's where we get confused. Sometimes we're so focused on comfort, we don't want to go to uncomfort or discomfort, rather, right? So for me, I originally from Brooklyn, you know, us girls, right? Me and Beth from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn,
But
yes.
I literally had to move to a whole different state. Like I didn't live in Brooklyn, New York. I moved to New Jersey, not by my choice. Trust and believe it was not my choice. I love my Brooklyn, but I was dying in Brooklyn. I was killing myself in Brooklyn. And I'll just tell this quick story. So when I went to New Jersey, what happened was I was viewing an apartment online. This was like I didn't get sober to 2014, but I moved to Jersey in 2012.
Okay.
So God will give you that room. He'll give you that grace to get yourself together. Like, okay,
Yes.
all right.
Yes.
And so I moved there in 2012. When I saw the place online, it was gorgeous. It was absolutely gorgeous. This was on Craigslist. And, you know, I don't know how Craigslist is today. Don't ask me because I'll do business on Craigslist. But
I don't know.
no shame if
That's how
you
I
do.
found this apartment was Craigslist,
And
but I don't know if I'd do it again.
And
Anyway.
so I see this amazing image. I mean, floors are hardwood floors. I love hardwood floors and garden tub. I mean, it was everything I wanted. And when it had a sunken living room. And when I was little, I remember saying, my aunt had one, and I remember saying, when I get big, I'm going to get an apartment just like this. I'm going to have a sunken living room. God always remembers what you say. And if he got to use that to get you, to position you where he wants you to go, he going to use it. Yeah. So I look at this apartment online, but then it doesn't look anything like what it looked like in person. So I get to this apartment, it's in disarray, floors are dull, there's still like prolongings that belong to the former tenants there. I'm like, what the hell? So they bamboozled you, girl. Like, what is going on? So I remember saying to the guy, like, you know, what's going on? I had taken 2 friends with me at the time. And he said, listen, Miss McMillan, I promise you, when you come back, it will look exactly like the photo. Now, here I was, divorced. I was living back at home with my mama, and I had been out of my mother's house for a very long time. So I was like, what am I going to do? Do I take this man's word, or do I stay with my mother? I knew I was going to have to take this man's word because I was not going back home with my mother. I'm just going to do it. And so I waited like a couple of weeks, whatever the time frame was, and I went back to the apartment, and it absolutely looked like the image. Oh, it was amazing. But here's the point that I want to make. And I didn't get this revelation on my own, so don't give me credit. Someone else prophesied and told me what this was. So I was sharing the story with them. And they said, Connie, when you saw the photo online, that was a representation of your life. And it was. I told you I was the fly girl. Every time I put a photo up, you thought I was well. You thought I was just, you know, living life great and everything. But when I went back to the apartment, that was my real life. It was a funky mess. It was a hot mess inside, internally. That pain I was masking, right? That was really what my life was. But when I went back the last time and it matched the photo, that was where God was taking me.
Yeah.
And that is because I was willing to do the work. I was willing to heal. And that's the beauty of it. being able to forgive. I had to do self-forgiveness. I had to acknowledge some things because, as I said, I was stepping out on my marriage. I was doing crazy stuff. I had to acknowledge the wrong that I did. I had to acknowledge the fact that my vision was blurred. I was operating out of a place that God had not said I was. I was thinking I was ugly. I was thinking my future, my destiny wasn't great, right? So when you do acknowledge some things, you allow healing and forgiveness to take place, your vision begins to change as well as your heart. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, it says be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So you're transforming the thoughts and the patterns little by little and starting to replace them with God's thoughts and that you can use to remind yourself, oh no, I'm not ugly. I am beautifully and wonderfully made. Oh, I'm not. I have a future. God has plans for me and hopes to bless me, not curse me. Yeah, so you can start replacing those old thoughts with the new thoughts.
Yes.
So I actually am curious. I actually have a couple questions for you about love and forgiveness.
Sure.
So how do you define love in general? And in general, how has your definition of love evolved over your journey? Because I'm guessing that at one point, the fly girl, right? That was an expression of trying to show yourself love. But that's very different from how you are showing love to yourself now. So how has that evolved, and how do you define love? Oh, wait, well, first of all, before we go on, I just saw a comment.
Sure. Is it
Cheetah said good evening.
Good evening.
And
is it Tayana? Is that her name?
I think so.
Thank you so much for thank you. God is faithful.
Yes, he is. He is. Yes. So going back, I didn't want to ignore their comments. So going back, yes. How do you define love, and how is it involved?
Well, definitely, I understand the importance. God is love. That's number one, right? So I understand that he is, it's unconditional, right? It isn't based off of behavior. So rather, I view myself as I was, as not so great, as not worthy, not deserving. His love is constant. And so he's enabled me to view myself as that. Now, of course, that's an ongoing thing. I'm not saying I've mastered it, but it's come so far from before. I know it's not built of external things, material things. That much I understand, to be clear. I understand the importance of self-forgiveness. I understand the importance of speaking over my life, speaking God's words over my life, and not sporadically, but intentionally every single day. So having those things, having incorporated those things into my life has helped me greatly. It's helped me to forgive others and to learn how to be loving to others, right? Not expecting anything in return. Because when I was out there just doing all this crazy stuff, I was doing it seeking love, but I had no love within myself. So I'm pouring from an empty cup, expecting something from other people, but I wasn't even giving it to myself. And that's a really, really dark place to be in. How could you expect something from someone else that you're not even able to give yourself or willing to give yourself?
Yes. And when you're empty, it's never enough. Like, you're always like, give me more, give me more. Like, I'm empty. It's never satisfactory.
I put a comment out today, and I hope I'm going to say it correctly, but I did something on Facebook, and I had said something similar to that, So basically, it's like, no matter how many people you surround yourself with, right? How many people can feed your ego? That's what I said. You will always remain starving. You will. Because they're feeding you, but they're feeding you, but it's never enough, to your point. But you're also not being replenished in the way that you need to be replenished, right? So it's like, it's so surface, it's so shallow. And I was guilty of that. I made sure that I surrounded myself with women who could feed me, who could stroke my ego. Now, at that time, I didn't see it as that, right? I really thought, like, I'm helping these women, and, they love me, and I love them, and it was a No, I was down low, selfish, inconsiderate, self-absorbed. Like, those are things we really don't want to be truthful about. But
Yes.
as the word says, the truth will set you free. And it
Yes.
really will. It'll hurt. It'll hurt, but
Yes.
it'll set you free.
Yes, that is actually my number one tip for anyone. At the beginning, you have to be honest with yourself. For
Yeah.
me, that
Yes.
was until I was honest and said out loud. It couldn't
Yes.
even be just in my head, because obviously
Yes.
you were talking about you were living in your head. You had all these stories running in your head. I had all these
Yep.
stories too, right? We all, when we're in pain, we have these stories. But when you
Mm-hmm.
let it out, you can kind of hear how crazy it really sounds.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like insane crazy, but like you can just hear that the logic is just not adding up.
Right, right.
And then also there's just that release because you just got it out, like what's really about.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's freedom in that. There's freedom in that, as you said. Now you can let it out verbally or you can write it out.
You can write it.
But
Yeah.
because I always say that too, if it's not written, it's not real. So,
True.
a lot of times we try to keep things up here. And I'm gonna do, even with routines, and this is probably going a little bit off, but you try to think that you're going to do something. Well, I'm not gonna talk to myself that way. I'm not gonna speak that way. This is it. But if you haven't written it down, you're gonna forget. And you're going to fool yourself. And before you know it, you're going to always go back. Your subconscious is now, taking that as, autopilot. Like, you've got to tell yourself that. You've got to believe that. So it's all about the subconsciousness, too.
Yes. And that's true. Like, I have on the back of my door, I'm like pointing like you can see it, but on the back of my door going out into my hallway, right, I have a couple things that I wrote out. And one of them, my favorite one that's a go-to is, I am a new woman, the oldest passed away, and new things are coming, right? But it's something that I can speak out, and it is written out, and then it's, also, just there visually to see. Yeah. So
I love that. I love that.
Oh, thank you. Let's see.
Hey.
Sweetness.
Hey, Tawana. How are you, Queen?
And she's got talent. Oh, she is giving you hearts.
Thank you.
Okay. I think, you know what? We all met through Ladies Power Circle. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Power Circle. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's so funny. I love it. So yes. So going on to forgiveness, because you did touch on forgiveness before, and like I am big on forgiveness. I think that after choosing, Jesus as my savior, choosing forgiveness is literally the best gift I've ever given myself.
It is.
What is the connection for you between forgiveness and love?
Oh, wow.
I know.
Well, I think
real.
I think you got to forgive in order to love, right?
I agree.
A lot of times we want people to apologize to us, right? But sometimes you'll get it, sometimes you won't get it. But at the same time, you've got to understand, if you're waiting for something that you may not ever get, right? Somebody offends you, because that happens. It's going to block you. It's literally going to block your ability to move forward, rather with them or someone else. And so you've got to definitely be able to say, in this past instance, what I'm talking about, even with my own self, even with forgiving myself of the wrong that I've done, forgiving myself of looking at myself, as worthless. And, in my book, I wrote myself a letter to the old Connie. Right. So I knew that it was important to do that, because you have to understand that when you're in pain, or, and that goes back to forgiveness still, when you're in pain, you're seeing it as one way. And when you get to the other side of forgiveness, then you get to see it differently too. And you can be open to say, you know what? My whole vision was blurred. That wasn't even what was going on. And even if that was what was going on, I'm so grateful. I'm so full. I'm so at this point where I can say, you know what, this is important for me. And even if they don't give me what I'm looking for, I'm still willing to move forward if I saw them on the street or whatever, right? You don't want to look at that. I told you guys that I'm divorced. And so I'm a thinker. I think ahead all the time. And so I always would say to myself, when I worked in New York, I live in Georgia now. And when I worked in New York, but I lived in Jersey, I would always like process like, oh, okay, well, what would I be like if I saw my ex-husband? Like if we ran into each other in this building, because there was a chance we would have. I worked for Department of Health. I issued birth and death records, and he was the funeral director. So there was a chance we was gonna see
Oh,
each other.
there's definitely a chance.
So I was like, what would I do? How would I behave? What would my response be? And that to me was a form of processing that new part of my life, making sure I'm not operating from that old space. So when I say just being prepared, just preparing myself. And so I
Yeah.
always said I would operate with integrity. I would always, regardless of what his response would be, I would be sure to operate so that my heart stays pure, right? So I would always make sure that I'm conscious of, thinking ahead and not being easily led astray and led backwards, if that makes sense.
It does absolutely make sense. And I love that you talked about planning, because I think a lot of times we think about planning for like a vacation, or planning for I'm going to go to college and then I'm going to
Yeah.
graduate and then I'm going to get a job.
Yeah.
But we don't think about the planning on how we're going to react to other people
Yeah.
that have hurt us or we have hurt,
So true.
or anything in terms of relationships. Like it's not as well thought out.
Right.
So that's great.
Right.
You thought out. Did you ever meet him? Did you guys ever run into each other?
No, we never did. No, no, no. And that was God. Like we never did. And I can even be super transparent because that's who I am. And there was a time when like a relative of his had died. So we were already like separated and divorced when my mom died. And I operated out of a place that I didn't move on. Now, mind you, when I close the door, I'm like, deuces. I mean, I'm cordial, but I'll say deuces. Like, I know it's just so important for me to move forward. Like I don't connect with the past. Like, and when I say connect, I mean physically connect. But if I see you, I'll definitely acknowledge you and give you a hello.
Right.
But I reached out to him just to let him know my mom had passed, and he attended the services and everything, and that was that. Well, another relative of his had passed. I had found out because we didn't stay in touch or anything like that, and I extended a condolence, because I knew the person very close, and he was not happy. He was not receptive. He was not like, he was just like, nah, I'm good. And I was just like, oh, okay, well, God bless you. Like, so I said that to say that sometimes it will not be received from, you could make the effort. You could be willing to, open your heart and apologize to a person, and they may not want it, but you still have to be good and well in your heart or well in your head to say, well, I've done my part, and, and move forward in your life. Don't feel bad. Don't feel like it's you,
Right.
don't do that, because again, you've done your part. Forgiveness is for you, really not the other person. So, yeah, I can say I wish him well, and I'm happy.
Of course. No, of course you do. So that's part of healing. And then,
Yeah.
you are when you're operating in a place of self-love, you know your worth. And then when you have the perspective of God, like I always say,
Yeah.
that's like steady and it's a different perspective. So you don't have like your narrow little perception, you have this broad perception. So it's so much easier to see things clearly, right?
Yeah.
But
Yes.
when you know that, like it's not, it doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. Like
Right.
if you
Right.
extend something and someone rejects it, it's still gonna hurt, but it doesn't mean that it's
Right.
going to like wreck you and like plunge
You don't
yourself
personalize it.
Yeah.
You don't personalize it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious how we've kind of talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but for people who've just jumped in, Mr. Goodheart says, "Hey, and how are you?"
I'm blessed and highly favored. Thank you.
Yes, yes. So you talked at the beginning about your words, that you're very, very careful with your words and how you talk about yourself. And I mean, that's important, right? Death and
Absolutely.
life and the power of the tongue. So I'm curious,
Absolutely.
how did you like transform? Like if you were to give someone like 2 tips for how they transform the narrative in the in the stories that they tell themselves, right? Like how do you begin talking about yourself one way and now you're at a point where you're super careful and very respectful with your self-talk. So what are a couple tips for how that can change?
So definitely, you've got to be aware of your own language, right? If you're not even aware of that, right, because some things are coming second nature. So if you're used to being the negative self-talker, be aware of that. So maybe you want to just take a moment, write down every single day, every time you said something negative about yourself or someone else,
Yes.
right? Write that down too. Right.
Yes.
This way you can be conscious. Okay, so these are all the things that I've said negative. This is the things that come out again subconsciously, automatically on autopilot. The next thing you want to do is make a conscious effort to do the opposite, right? So
Yeah.
now you know what those things are. All right, I know I spoke that way yesterday. I know I said, "Oh, I'm just too fat. This outfit just doesn't. It's too snug, right? Oh, yellow's not my color. It doesn't look good on me. I look like a I don't know or whatever, right? My skin tone is just so off, or whatever it is. Make a conscious effort of what it is that you're saying negatively about yourself, and then the next day follow it through with something positive. Look at yourself, be able to identify something that you like on yourself. What is something? We've all got something that we like, and we've all got something we don't like, but don't focus on the negative aspect. Focus on those good things about what you like. Even maybe focus on some things that someone else has said. I could remember personally when I was in college doing my undergrad, and I remember a professor, I was all about the A. I'm just not gonna lie. Like I didn't do B's and C's, and I got a B, but I didn't really aim for a B.
Yeah.
And so I remember it was my last semester, and I just wanted an A in this class. It was my major, and after we were done, I remember it was a speech. So my professor was critiquing us, and she was like, you should really think about public speaking. And I was like, who's she talking to?
Who's talking to you?
I was the only one up there at the podium, mind you. But I'm saying it was something, I didn't like my voice. I didn't even think like, what I said. I knew it made sense, but it wasn't like speech worthy, like, in my opinion. But so it was something that she said, and I graduated in 2009, and I remember that conversation even to this day. So you want to be able to, again, highlight some of the things that people have poured into you positively. Hold on to that. If you got to write them down, y'all see my vision board back here? That's one of them on the floor, but the other one's up there.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, hold on to something that you said, be it if it's a family member, a college professor, maybe it's a celebrity, maybe they said something that you really, really connected with. Hold on to that and let that be your light. Don't hold on to the negative Nancy's. And the last thing I think I would say is monitor your circle. Monitor those who you hang around. A lot of times we attract who we are. We do.
Yeah.
So you want to be careful about who it is that you're surrounding yourself with. I'm big on don't focus on history. It doesn't matter that you guys went to elementary school together, junior high school, and college. If they don't add value, you need to get away from them. If they're not excelling, you need to get away from them. That does not be mean and nasty, but that just means, girl, I'm busy today, or bro, I'm gonna catch you later, right? That's all that means, right? Or you could just, if you bold like me, just say, I'm gonna have to call you back. I'm busy. It's really your prerogative. But be true to yourself. Have people around you that can elevate you, that can pull you, that can stretch you. That's gonna tell you the truth. You don't want yes people, and you definitely don't want to base your relationships off of history versus value.
Yes.
So that's what I would say.
Yes. Well, there's I don't think I have it exactly right. Water seeks its own level, or water something, and then there's the other, meaning yes, similar to the point you were making earlier. And then there's also the iron sharpens iron. So yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You want to
Absolutely.
not be sinking in water.
Yeah.
You want to be sharpening, and it's not always easy. It's not always fun, but yes, it's so important.
I think again it was like when we were talking about the whole understanding that it's like a crabs in a barrel type thing. Like when you're the guinea pig, right? That's not a bowl position most people would want to take. It's a position where you're going to possibly stand alone for a little while because God will bring the people that you need around. He will bring them. But it is also possibly where you need to be. If we all have something in our family that we're struggling with. So for me, mine again was, masking alcohol, masking pain with alcohol. For some others, it could be something else. But if you know in your gut that this is something that's been troubling you, right? If you know it's something that your family, your bloodline has been suffering with for a very, very long time, why not? Why not step up and be the guinea pig? Secrets kill. Secrets kill. And trust and believe, it didn't just start with me. I just thank God that I heeded to the call, right? So there's something that we all have to do, but who's going to do it? Who's going to be the one? Have I been judged incorrectly with one family member? Yeah, I have. Have they had an opinion of, me speaking about my life and having to incorporate a portion of, my life that involves my mom's and my experience in seeing certain things? Absolutely. But I would say this, pay attention to your audience, because if it's your audience that's judging you and they're still masking in their pain, you don't even need to personalize what they're saying. You can take it with a grain of salt. Because it's not for you to really get upset about it. It's really for you to have empathy with, because their vision is not what they're looking at it differently. They're going to take it more personal because they're still in it. Right. So if you have someone again that maybe is in unforgiveness, right there, and you're speaking about forgiveness, you're here, you're connecting with Beth and you're telling your story and how, unforgiveness has just taken so much hold on your family. And you've had to share maybe a portion of your bloodline, your uncles, your aunties, your grandparents. But yet your siblings, like, well, why did you bring them into it? Why are you talking all about them? If they're still operating in unforgiveness, that's why they see it that way.
Yeah.
But if they have been freed themselves, they can understand where you're coming in your position. And I hope that makes sense.
It does. And so I don't have the exact quote right, but there's, the elephant in the room. And I can't even remember who it was, but if you just have this elephant in the room and you just keep trying to go around it, you're going to keep tripping over the trunk. You're going to accidentally, there's a trunk that's attached to the elephant, right? And, it swings and it moves and you're going to trip over it. And I wish I could remember the exact quote now, but I thought that is so true. And that's what happens a lot. Hey, Marcus. So
hi, Marcus.
so yes, when we're silent or we're masking our pain, we're tripping over it, and we don't even necessarily even know because it seems so normal. And that might be what goes on with like other family members or friends that you're always polite to, and I mean like a universal you, not just you, but there's those people, but their situation, it just seems normal to like gossip, or it seems normal to just talk bad about themselves, or it seems normal to just sit around and watch TV every night and not purpose, right? And
so true.
They don't even realize they're tripping over an elephant trunk. Meanwhile, and you still trip over, and you fall and you get back up, but yes.
Well, you'll know that things are shifting in your life when you start to get uncomfortable in those environments, right? When you are the oddball out, right? When you prepare how you're going to handle I'm going to their house. I know it's a holiday. What am I going to do? Am I going to bring my own juice with me? Okay, what time am I going to leave? How long am I going to stay? Like when you're preparing, you're pre-planning, you know that you're in the position to change. You're changing actually, right? When things just don't seem ordinary anymore, right? When you're in environments and you hear certain conversations and you're thinking about the next book you're going to order from Amazon, right? Like, that you are evolving, that your life is shifting and turning into the direction that you want it to. So don't feel any type of way with being the oddball out. I remember, my sister would call me the sobriety queen. She would say, put your bottles away, everybody. Here comes the sobriety queen. And
Oh,
and so my handle before was sobriety queen.
yes.
And I would always, whenever I interviewed and people would say, where'd you get that name from? And I would tell them a story. I'm like, I didn't give my name to myself. And so I took it and I ran with it. And so in your case, you might be the oddball, you might be judged, you might be outcast, you might be, and that's okay. Like, they talked about Jesus. Like, I'm
They
like,
did.
right?
They sure
So
did.
um, don't be so offended or sensitive when you are set apart, because it's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a good, I battled with that. I didn't even realize that, that's how God was positioned in my life. I was never ever supposed to fit into certain situations, no matter how much I tried, no matter how much I drank. I
Mhm.
dressed it up. I spent thousands of dollars on clothes and liquor and partying and all these crazy different things. But it wasn't until I got to New Jersey where things began to shift, and it was in that room. When I lived in Brooklyn, I would let anybody in my house. It was, when I say I was crazy, I was
Yeah.
crazy. I was in there, and I was just lonely, and I just wanted company. So not somebody off the street, but like, if you
Right,
if you had
right.
a friend and you said, "Oh, my friend is coming with me," but I never met your friend, I was like, "Bring your
Amazing.
friend, girl. I got the liquor. I got everything." Like, it didn't matter. And
Yeah.
when I went to New Jersey and I got sober in 2014, I remember my first event I had, I think it was like 2015, and operating off the same, gathering, but differently. And so I was still conversing with certain young ladies that I used to drink with, but they knew I was sober now. And
Yeah.
I remember telling them, listen, don't look at here. Like, don't bring none, ain't nothing like that going down. But I was always a greedy girl then. I'm taking my health a lot more serious now. So I can't call myself a greedy girl anymore. So, um,
Yeah,
but
funny.
I remember one of the young ladies, she tried it and she was just like, well, I'm bringing one of my friends with me. And I said, no, you're not. Nobody's coming to this house that I don't know. So you're welcome to come, but if that's a problem for you, you could stay home too. So
Okay. Yes,
yeah, and that wasn't,
boundaries.
yeah, right. I wasn't bold back then, and she opted not to come. But I was like, okay, toodaloo. And we had a great time. But that is the fear of some people, setting boundaries. What'll happen? What will people think of me? How will they look at me? Um, it's just it's a whole big thing, and you gotta understand that your life is purposeful and you don't have to live in a place of unforgiveness, a place of
Mhm.
trying to fit in, because you're not going to fit into everybody's circle. I can trust me, you're not. So yeah.
Awesome. I love it. I love everything you shared. I thank you so much for sharing
You're
some of your
welcome.
time, sharing some of your testimony, sharing some
Thank
wisdom for
you.
girls. So, before we wrap up, let everyone know, tell the world how they can connect with you, where they can get your book, how they can reach out to you about anything.
Oh, thank you, Beth, for having me. It has been a blast. I truly
Yes,
love you. I cannot wait to
I love you
visit. Well,
too.
I'll probably come to New Jersey before I come to New York. I don't see myself coming to New York. I'm just going to be honest.
It's okay.
But you guys can absolutely connect with me at Connie S. McMillan _ here on Instagram, as well as my website is the same thing without the underscore, ConnieSMcMillan.com. There, absolutely, I no longer do coaching with sobriety, but I am an impact coach. So I help women, mostly, but men are welcome as well. I really heal the root of the pain. So usually it's self-esteem, for you to heal, rise, and thrive in life so that you can live on purpose. So my book, Alcohol Fiends and Sobriety Queen, is available if you would like to purchase it, also on my website. But I'm so grateful that you gave
Yes.
me the opportunity to share.
Yes, thank you so much. I love that we're still connected after all these years,
Yes,
and we both had so many transitions. So yes,
yes.
it's really a beautiful thing. Yes, I am grateful for this conversation as well. Thank you
Thank
so very
you.
much. Let's see.
Anytime.
Is there any last comments before we end? I
Yeah,
see a
any
lot of
questions, you
names.
guys?
Yeah, does anyone
Any
have any
questions? Type them
questions?
down below. I'll answer.
I don't know. I know Instagram used to cut off after an hour. I don't know if they still do or not. We have like a couple
Oh,
minutes.
yeah.
If anyone has any questions for Connie.
Look at I'm trying to keep my dog quiet.
He's like, take me on a walk.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. All right, Connie.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'll talk to you later. Good night.
All right, great. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Good night,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Yes, thank you. Happy Monday. I am